More about the travel ban and its effects. Minnesota Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar joins us tonight from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks for being here. I want to get you to react to Donald Trump, this tweet. He said, "There's nothing nice about searching for terrorists before they can enter our country. This was a big part of my campaign. Study the world." Obviously, you've just heard from world leaders' reaction. Before that, you heard from Trump supporters' reaction. They're not surprised. Your thoughts?
Well, Brett, I'm a former prosecutor. I spent 8 years running the biggest prosecutor's office in our state through the 9/11 time. And I have to say that security is my #1 focus. I think it should be the #1 focus of government. That being said, we have to always look at the civil rights of Americans, and we have to look at what our country stands for and what our Constitution stands for, including religious liberty. So what I think, if the president wants to add biometrics and do some more things that I've been in favor of, with security, that those things which have been developed, and as you know, we add technological changes to our airports and other things all the time, that he should proceed with those and work with them. But the way that this was put out there, where basically there is a freeze on all refugees from all over the world, no matter where they came from, including a 4-year-old that a mom in Minnesota who has her 2 children with her is trying to get the other child, is now stuck in Uganda and can't come in. Those are real stories. And our businesses, it's not just the coast that are experiencing this. People who were traveling for business conferences, people who left to go to a funeral,
sure.
People who will want to go to their dad's funeral in 2 months. If they die and they've been trying to get to them to see them, they're not going to be able to do that. Those are the stories that we're hearing, and I just think the way this was handled was callous, but it also created chaos.
As we put up the 7 countries involved here, the administration is pointing to immigration law, and they're also pointing to the Obama administration singling out these 7 countries. Federal immigration law includes Section 1182, which states whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. That is Section 1182. So he has the right to do this.
Well, first of all, I think all that will be litigated in court, among other things. But I will say, when you bring up President Obama, he's made it clear. And when you look at back what happened, one country, there were some reports. They went back and looked at everyone that had been allowed in from Iraq and made a decision, and then that program continued. It wasn't this kind of travel freeze, and it certainly didn't involve all refugees from all over the world, or people stuck at airports, or people stuck abroad, or students in Canada that can't come in because
sure.
they're from another country.
You're concerned about vetting for refugees, right?
Of course, and I have supported vetting at its best. Right now, the process for refugees is one of the most thorough ones we have. It can take 18 months, 2 years. Minnesota is population of the 2nd biggest Hmong population in the country, biggest Somali population, biggest Liberian, biggest Oromo. They are legal workers, Brett, and they are working in every hospital and shopping mall in our state.
Well, you've had 13 of them from Minnesota who have been charged as ISIS-linked cases since 2014.
By the way, a prosecutor that is a good friend of mine that I made sure got into that office because I knew he would be aggressive, and that's important.
So let me
but the
just
vast
point
majority
to
are law-abiding.
Minnesota exit polls in 2016, the top issues facing the country, economy drove the day, but the next 2 combined were about 31%, terrorism and immigration. For those who thought terrorism was the top issue, they voted for Donald Trump 51 to 41 over Hillary Clinton. For those that thought immigration was their top issue, they voted 73% to 22%. So, Senator, voters in your own state thought Donald Trump was more on message if those were the 2 issues that they felt were most important.
Well, I'm not going to relitigate the whole presidential campaign. What I know is that going forward, we might have different views in our state, but people do want their government to work. So that when a president puts out an order, they want to make sure that that president has consulted with the law enforcement involved, the agencies involved, consulted with businesses that have employees that are overseas, and that just didn't happen here. And I think some of the feedback that we're hearing now, and that's a euphemism for protests and everything is because of that. And changes have to be made as one country. And not everyone's going to be happy with them, but the way that this was handled, I think it was Senator Portman, a Republican. You have a number of Republicans voicing concerns today, McCain, Graham, Collins,
there's
Sass.
no doubt, yeah.
Okay, so but Senator Portman said it maybe for some of your viewers, I thought, the most interesting way. He said the vetting rule wasn't vetted.
Yeah, just last thing, when the White House says in a 24-hour period 109 people were delayed, 325,000 were coming in from many countries over the weekend, what do you say? That's their point, to say this has been blown out of proportion and exaggerated, and now it is being processed through.
Well, 109, that was in one night at midnight. Imagine the people that are over there now that are having trouble. I brought up the one family. We had a former Marine that had a family member that he wanted to see. There are going to be, these stories are going to be heard for weeks and months to come unless some more changes are made to the order, or the order is reversed, or the legislation passes in Congress. So my hope is that the administration will step back, figure out what they want to do differently with vetting, and if they want to add some provisions, whatever they want to do, but they don't take it out on the backs of people all over the world that have followed the rules and played by the law and waited to come in and were just ready to come in as refugees who've been thoroughly vetted.
Yeah.
That is my hope.
Senator Klobuchar, we appreciate your time. You're always welcome.
Thank you, Brett.